like to make a short video clip of my treasure, my masterpiece that I dearly love. And it really started many years ago when I saw my very first Henry rifle. You just don't see them anymore. I've seen one in my lifetime. But that's kind of where that seed was planted in my mind, so that probably became kind of latent. But when I ran across this picture right here, this is the Henry rifle here, which became the Winchester. And Browning should take all the credit for creating the Winchester rifle, because the guy was an extremely brilliant engineer type. So I started having this idea in my mind, wouldn't that be great to take and create a muzzleloader from that kind of an idea. So Maureen and I have a friend, and she's been a friend for many years. She has an original 1886 model Winchester, a 4570, and that is the copy of it. And I get to clean it every year, and oh, would I love to have that rifle, but I just don't think she's ever gonna get rid of it, and unfortunately it'll probably be given to someone, and from there, Lord only knows. So it took me probably, well, actually one whole winter in creating a engineering design that I liked, and I could fit in all of the moving parts, which is, there's only two of them, but this is basically the design that I came up with. And I don't know, I probably drew 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and just basically threw them all away. My problem was not so much here, my problem was right in this area here, where the trigger and the hammer just had to come in absolutely perfect. So I scratched a lot of drawings that I had made. So anyway, I did come up with this drawing here, and my goal was, I did know a CNC machinist, retired, extremely old, but I can see it in his time, in his life, he had to be very good. So he has an old Bridgeport, which nobody uses anymore, but he knows the machine so well that he said that he would do this for me at a price. So we started talking about it, and he says, yeah, he says, let's do it. So it really encouraged me. We knew we could do all of this, but the barrel, that was another story. So I finally found a guy in Pennsylvania that is probably the most premier barrel maker in America, muzzleloader barrel maker. It's about almost a 2-year lead time to get a barrel made. So this is basically the drawing that I sent him, and this is the barrel, and he really didn't need a lot of engineering data for me, except there was a couple of fine points, and that would be right in here, and those are kind of pretty technical. So he said that, you bet, I can do it, it'll be a while, and it'll cost you X amount of dollars. That barrel cost me more than I can go out and buy a complete muzzleloader. Now mind you, when I got this barrel, it's in the green. All I got was a tube with a hole bored through it. So I had to do all of the browning, and I'd done all the browning, put on the sights, the thimbles, return the thimble, and all of that, the rib here. And I got this from a gun show, and it's 1851 Harper's Ferry browning solution, and this is the best stuff I've ever used. It just created, I think this is probably about 6 coats on it, and it turned out precisely just the way I wanted it. Okay, this is a 50 caliber, and it shoots quite a large projectile. You can see on my finger, I think this is 425 grains. I cast these bullets myself, but I found out later that I can buy something that's probably as accurate or better than what I can cast. So Alan, my son, and we've been probably muzzle loading for about, I'd say 35 years. And I'd say the first 10 years was just an absolute joke. So we kept working with it, and finally we came up with a combination bullet, powder, and the grains of powder to where we do very well. It seems like we're usually shooting about 110 grains of Pyrodex, actually it's Select, and we found that if we loaded anything over 110 grains, like say for instance 120, 130, 140, the bullet would be beginning to tumble, and there's some targets that we had that the bullet went in crosswise. So we started downloading from there and came up with anything from 90 to 110, and it'll take down any kind of elk you want to shoot. In fact, Alan shot his 7x7, I think that was, what, 6 years ago, and he shot it with 90 grains of powder, and we also can use sabots, so we're kind of using that, and we like them a lot. The only other thing that I probably added to this was the fiber optic sights, which is legal in the state of Washington, and being my eyesight is not as good as it used to be, I love those fiber optics. In low daylight, he's mine. It's as simple as that. I just love them because it lights it up so well. If you can see the target, just barely legal hours, they work absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to disassemble this thing. Hopefully I can do it here relatively quickly. And I just kind of want to show you some of the breakdown of the gun because it is rather unique. This is an unbreakable ramrod. And yes, we have broken many ramrods. These are just wonderful. So I'll take this end cap off here. Well, let's see here. Let me first take this off here. Well, it's supposed to come off. Oh, it'll come off just when I least expect it. There we go. I made the forearm and also the stock. That's black walnut. and that is from a tree, a 75-year-old tree that we had in our other place, Maple Valley. I took it down and sold off the plank or slab wood, and I kept the stump in it, and I got 33 the most beautiful gun stocks you ever saw. And I sold all of those to a guy in, oh, I think he was in Eugene, Oregon. And as soon as he saw the grain and everything, he says, I'll buy them all. So that was good. But I did save enough to have some stocks made. I don't really get too much into it, but I love to do it for myself. Here's a prototype. I ruined probably about 6 of these, mainly because being this is a tapered barrel, it's extremely difficult to cut the proper groove in here at a taper to where you have good wood to metal contact. And I want to show you this. This is a little horseshoe we designed and created because the nose cap goes right onto that. And of course, like I say, this is a prototype. This turned out pretty good. We started working with aluminum because it's cheap, and oh, we wasted a lot of aluminum until we figured out exactly what we wanted. This is a good one right here. So, this is the same thing. It's got the same little horseshoe in here, and a really pretty nose cap. So we kind of like that a lot. And I failed to mention to you that this barrel also has a what they call a gain twist. And what that means is that it starts out slow here and increases to the muzzle. And the barrel maker said that he would like to make it out of 12L14 steel, which doesn't mean a whole lot probably to you or me, but he says it literally is the best when you're shooting beyond 100 yards. He says it performs very, very well at 150. So, and I have shot at 150, and I can probably keep it into a group about that big. So that's pretty amazing for black powder or Pyrodex muzzleloader. So I will continue to disassemble this. Got to take the spacer out. The spacer was created here. That's to cover a screw up. I cut this thing probably a 64th too short, so it left a gap, so I cheated. There's only one screw that holds this whole gun together. And I have this beautiful little wrench here. This is an Allen type wrench, fits right here. Okay. This is a little screwdriver here, and this takes out your nipple when you have the barrel out of the receiver. So we'll just take and unscrew this, and okay. The barrel comes out just like that. Fits extremely, extremely tight in there. This is the nipple. And the powder chamber is right here. But we had to cut this thing down in order to fit into this receiver because I wanted this particular design. If I were to do it all over again, I would reduce this to about another inch and cut the barrel at 2 inches and make it a lot lighter. This weighs right about 9¼ pounds, which is fairly heavy, but still totally manageable in the field. Tough to carry it all day, but I think if you were very, very young, it probably wouldn't matter. There are 2 screws on each side here that hold the receiver to the trigger guard assembly. And I really, really wish I didn't have to do this, putting the screws in the side, but being the design, the way I designed it, we had figured out that when I took this to torque this barrel down onto the receiver would slide up because of the angle. So in order to get away from that, I just bored holes and threaded it, and now there's screws in the side. So anyway, this thing comes off just like this, okay? And I want you to really, really look at this, because even the machinist said, I am really, really satisfied. The two mating surfaces right here are so close. He was extremely proud. The great big smile came on his face when we fitted these two things together, because that's just not that easy to do. So anyway, it comes apart just like that. This is the receiver assembly. This used to be just a big chunk of yellow brass, and this hole was bored first, and then this was all basically hogged out, this and down in here. So it's not very heavy, and you can see I've been firing it quite a bit, and it's kind of tarnished right there. But that would be the receiver assembly. And this is the trigger guard assembly. Took us a lot of work to get this where we got it. But I do want to point out, like I said, there's two moving parts. Here's the trigger, the hammer, and the trigger, two moving parts. Well, there's a little tiny coil spring back here. And the beauty about this particular thing, I want you to see this, is when it's shot, that hammer goes forward, and when you release the trigger, it automatically kicks the hammer back. This is the safe position. So it all does it automatically. Those two parts was not totally my idea. I pirated it from Thompson Center Scout. Thompson Center made a Scout, which I do have. It's kind of a carbine about this long. And yes, I've taken quite a few elk with it. But this is the kind of the idea they use. So I worked with that design, created these two, which are almost identical to what they had, but it just works so good. And I want to talk about the stock a little bit. I'm not going to take the butt plate off and take it all out, but you would think, or I thought, it would be not that difficult to bore a hole all the way from here into the trigger guard assembly. Well, I ruined 3 of these, because it would be off like an 1/8 of an inch, and that just did not line up. So consequently, I threw 3 of these away, and then finally I came out with this one that looks pretty good. A little bit darker than I wanted it, but it's not bad. I've already been questioned that as soon as they see that, they will always say, "Oh, what a gorgeous Winchester you have." Well, it's really not the Winchester, but if you look at it, it really, really looks like a Winchester. This is not movable. That's only for aesthetic purposes. I thought about eliminating that and just doing just this. Have the trigger guard here, none of this, but this just kind of looked very, very unique. So now, like I said, we started with aluminum because it's so cheap. This was our first prototype, and there were so many mistakes in this. You can see right offhand, this is off center. Bad milling marks here. Same here. And if I look at this, you probably can't see it. This is a little offset too far this way. So we had a lot of problems due to the program. Now Vander wrote the program, and let me tell you about this guy a little bit. Incredible person, but he's past his prime. you know, my fingers hurt a lot, but nothing compared to this man. This man's fingers were so badly crippled that I would have to hand him the parts because he just simply could not pick them up. His hands were that bad. He was also a diabetic, 86 or 87 years old, had that wonderful West Texas drawl. Just a great man. I dearly loved him. Very Christian, never said a bad word, I don't think, in his life. So we really hooked up very well. Did we have our moments of contention? Yes. The difficulty is for me to convey my idea. I could put it on paper, but he would tell me, Joe, he says, I can't do that because the computer doesn't understand that, and I can't put it in numbers, what you're trying to tell me. So we worked with that quite a lot, and finally we got an understanding to where we did work as a team, and it's a wonderful thing. So, but this guy was, I keep going back to him, and apparently I think he passed away and nobody notified me, but I do not receive any more emails from him or anything, and I've driven past his place and nobody's there, so, you know, I don't know. But anyway, he had an engineering TI, Texas Instruments calculator, engineering calculator. It's big like this, and it's just like they could be talking Latin to me. But he wrote the program. There is some of what I loved about him is that he just would not give up. There was no such thing as surrendering, and he knew that he would make mistakes. So anyway, through the process, like say for instance, he would write the program for maybe just this alone, right here. Just this section right here. So then we could run that on the computer, and off of the screen we could see about how it was traveling, and we could take a very large piece of aluminum and we could trace exactly what he was doing. So that's basically how we correct a lot of the errors. But still there were so many errors in there, and we're going to get to some monster mistakes here. So anyway, my hat's off to the gentleman, and I hope he rests in peace. He was one of the most premier guys I've ever met that just was so sharp in his mind for his age. Oh, I wish I'm that way when I'm 86, if I make it. Okay, this is the second one. Okay, this one turned out a lot better. We corrected all of the mistakes in there. This is not a very bad specimen. So you can see here that basically this is what we created. This part is all hidden in here, and that is where the spring goes from here to here. Other than that, this is all empty. Okay? So being this was pretty good, then this part here and all of this we did not write a program for. That was freehand. And most of this Vander done because he could sit on he used his little electric cart to get up to the machine shop, tipped over a few times, so I'd pick him up, get him on his little kitty cart, and away he'd go. And he really could not see high enough onto the milling table to where he could really monitor this all very well. So I would stand here, and I was on the red button, and when I thought that I could see something not quite going right, I would hit that button and tell Vander, it doesn't look right to me. So then he'd check it all out, and yes, we'd find errors. So at any rate, long story short, I milled out this on a kind of a modified CNC. This was basically pretty much done all by hand, but yet I had a computer here to look at the numbers on the depth, the length, all that kind of a stuff. So these are the two holes that were drilled for the trigger and the hammer. And that was extremely critical, because you have to appreciate when these things all come together, and when the drop of the hammer hits the nipple, it has to hit at a perfectly 90 degree. Okay? So the placement of these two pins were extremely critical. And we done this all off of a CNC, and I won't go into how we jigged it all up. Got the centers of all these, measured out all the distance from here to here to here to here, all that. But it turned out beautiful. So now we come to this precious piece right here. This is virtually identical to what I have, okay? Minus the holes here and minus the cut here. This is a piece of junk. Here's why. When we done this side, everything was beautiful. Then you turn it over and you run the program backwards, so you create this side. Except, look what happened there. That cutter went right in here, and by the time I realized what was going on, I hit the red button. Too late. We ruined the part. Here's another thing that happened that was just really surprised us. As you can see, this would be fairly easy to do, because you started out with a big block of gold brass. So you could put this in a vise and you could mill out this all really handy. Now when you had that all cut away, when you turn it over like this, what in the world? There's no place you can grab on without bending something. So we created these jaws. So when one side was milled, then we put it in this jaw, and it just worked absolutely beautiful, because then we could do all of this work right here, every bit of it, duplicating the precise side of this over here. So this was not my idea, that was Vander's, and I just love him for it, because it just worked so good. Okay, that's about it. Like I say, I shot tested, which will probably be in someplace in the clip, I hope. And I done that at Tom's place, Tom Golf, in New Plymouth, out backside of his garage. And I loaded it very heavy, and it didn't come apart. So I said, "Hooray, we got a winner." But I did have it out in the field, and I probably shot it, I'm guessing probably 16, 18 times. And so far I'm really liking it. It gets really tough to shoot more than a dozen times. I'm a relatively light frame. I had a recoil pad on, but man, oh man, this thing is just like kopać jak diablice. And that was a little bit of Polish there, which means it really kicks like a devil. So even with the 110 grains of powder, it still has got a tremendous bark. So later on I plan to, I have shot it at a target. I wasn't really satisfied. I've done a lot of sight adjusting, and hopefully next week I'll take it along. We're going to do some elk scouting, and not with this piece of weapon here. That's another whole different program under my Master Hunter's permit. But I'll take this along, and then hopefully we can video that and show you how bloody accurate this weapon is. I love it. and I hope it's in our family forever. I do hope that it becomes an heirloom, because there is only one like it, and it's mine. Okay, here comes the big bang.
You got a cap on?
Okay, we're out in the backcountry. Oh, how the beauty of it all. And this would be the quad, or four-wheeler, some people call it. We'll be using that probably within the next 2 or 3 days. And that's our rig. Maureen is inside with her earmuffs on, and her head is under 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 pillows. Her hearing is extremely sensitive, and oh, she doesn't like that big bang. So we're going to, that's my possibles bag, and we're gonna fire a shot here to see how accurate this treasure is. And there's the target up there. That's right about 90 to 100 yards. I can't even hold the camera still. So, at any rate, here's our super high-tech bench rest, Coleman chair, some camper steps, a couple of backpacks, pillow. Oh yes, it'll work. And oh, I got to show you our deer we found out. It's a target. That's kind of funny, actually. I thought about using it, but it pretty badly broke up, so we're going to leave it over here. Somebody left it here, so we're just going to go ahead and leave it here. So I'm going to put this thing on a tripod, and we'll load it up and see what happens. Okay, we're going to load this bad boy up. This is a speed loader that has 90 grains of Pyrodex and a bullet in the end with 2 primers, one on each end. I carry about 3-4 of these out in the field, and it's just a really quick way to reload. So first of all, we get the powder down in here. I know that animal is going to get awfully old by the time I get all loaded up here. Okay. This is a bullet starter. So what we do is we put that there, take the other cap off, run the bullet down in. Hopefully it'll be fairly close. Oh. These dudes really start hard, but once you get them going, they're not that bad. I actually used the wrong end there, but it doesn't really matter. And you want to make sure that your bullet is seated. If it's not, you have just blown up your gun. Okay, I have a mark here. Shows me that my bullet is seated. This is the unbreakable ramrod. I love it. Carbon fiber. And now we are ready to put a cap on it, or a primer as they call it. Okay, primer's on. Now that's in the safe position. So, okay, let's give it a try. Psa, krew, to kłopać jak diabłyszcze. Oh, that's another one of those Polish statements. What's that really actually? The direct translation, again, is dog's blood. That devil really kicks. So, let's go see how much damage we've done. It'll take me a little while to get up there. Oh my, oh my. You gotta love this. I actually had it stood up like this. Now what do you think? I almost knocked its eyeball out. You know, I think I'm going to settle for that. And that was at 90 to 100 yards. And if I had an elk standing broadside at 200 and I'm on a dead rest, it's mine. So that it's far and above the regular run-of-the-mill, but then it's a very, very custom-made rifle, and it may have some flaws here and there, but warrior, but every Marine has a policy. Every time I swear, or if I point out flaws in some of the stuff I do, like the rifle, the chainsaw on the bears and stuff like that, I get fined $25. And I gotta tell you, I am so bankrupt. Never, never, ever will I recover. And yeah, probably pretty much the rest of my life I'll be bankrupt. But, you know, she's great. But it really cost me dearly. So, hopefully, the next cut or film will be where I'm showing you the bad boy. That's all. Oh, I have to... These make the best targets in the whole wide world. Okay? You can just buy them. This one happens to be Legacy Roofing. They roofed our house. So I absconded with the target. And these really work great. You take them out, they're very thin, pretty well take it most any place, stick them in the ground, they work great. So until next time.